Okay. Um, so, Eugene, you want to start?
Dowlet Mai had bought Mera an expensive gold sari to wear to the wedding, along with other stylish clothes and jewelry. And now Mera had the opportunity to wear them. She had a bath, did her hair fashionably, and dressed in all her finery to go to the fire temple. Finery to go to the fire temple. Just imagine, Mera commented, after having gone barefoot for months and being dressed very simply like the Brahmin girls at Sakori, now in Nagar, to be dressed in such a lovely sari and jewelry with everyone fussing around me. I had come to Nagar dressed in an ordinary cotton sari, and now I was wearing high heels, a good sari, and earrings. At the fire temple, Mara met many people, including Paroja and Dolly's cousin Mota, that's Sarosha's sister. Since the girls did not understand the language of the prayers, none of them paid any attention to them. Going to the fire temple was just an outing for them. And the Ahmednagar girls were more interested in meeting Franny's sister and seeing what she was wearing. The scene was so comic, Mara noted. Mota was looking at me over her prayer book the whole time. After the ceremony was over, they stood outside and admired each other's saris and jewelry. The next day, a message came from Baba through Vishnu, one of the young Mandali, that they must come to Mehrabad for darshan. Rustam drove those called, which included Baba's mother, Shireen Mai, and aunt, Dalamasi, along with Gulmai, Daulat Mai, Franey, and Mera. The date was either 18 or 19 May 1923, a momentous day for Mera. The first time she went to Mehrabad, the first time she saw Baba carefully at close quarters, and the first time she took his darshan. She wore a stunning magenta sari with a shining border. Her hair was loose and flowing. Geez, how does she remember all this stuff happening back in 1923? I should
I
read that
know.
sidebar while it's visible. Ahmednagar, while in Ahmednagar, Mara went one day with a group for a picnic and climbed the steep hill to Chand Babi Mahal, a palace now in ruins where once lived a queen who ruled this area. Among the new friends she made were the girls of the Nagarwala family, a prominent Parsi family of Ahmednagar.
Honey Bunny, I think one answer might be how did she remember all these details? Is she probably told it many times
Or she
over the
could have
years.
written it down.
Huh?
She could have written it down.
Yeah.
Must, yeah, maybe somebody else knows if there were diaries or something. I'd need a diary. I couldn't remember anything like that. Mehrabad, where some British army units had been stationed during the First World War, had railroad tracks running through it with a small, well-constructed stone building that had been the Army's post office next to the tracks. In addition, Baba and the Mandali were in the process of restoring a large mess hall with two big rooms, a bathing room, and verandas on both sides for their living quarters. Abad means a prosperous settlement or flourishing colony. But at this time, Mehrabad hardly seemed so. Mara had been shocked by her in-laws' accommodations. in Abanagar, and her first impression of Meherabad was similar. Little did she know that this windswept and desolate place with its simple dwellings would soon become her home. The ladies got out of the car at the post office, but Baba was not there. He was across the road at the mess quarters, helping the Mandali whitewash the inside of the building. Mehera's cousin, Padre, came to the post office and told them to wait. Baba was coming. Baba was just coming. Seeing them, Baba washed his hands and walked quickly across the fields. Mehera recalled that Baba was wearing a paran and kurta, loose pants. Loose pants must be the paran, because I think a kurta is a shirt, not a sadra. He glanced at them, then went inside the post office and sat on the carpet. They were told to come inside. Well, maybe it stuck in her mind because this was the first time that she got a good look at him, right?
Yeah.
Baba's mother, Shireen Mai, entered first, followed by Gul Mai and the other elders who took Baba's darshan. I saw others bowing down, Mehera said, and I imitated them. For a second, I glanced up into Baba's eyes, so shining, flashing at the time. I didn't want to face Baba. I felt shy, so I sat behind Franey, who was seated next to Baba. I did not stare at Baba. Baba looked very beautiful, but very, very thin. His hair was short, not yet to his shoulders. There was a slight scar on Baba's forehead where Upasani Maharaj had struck him with a stone. From close quarters, you could see it between his eyes. It wasn't deep. I forgot to tell Baba that I had seen him 4 times on the same day, in parentheses, at Sakori. Baba asked whether all the wedding guests had left, and Dalit Mai said yes, except for the aunt of the boy who had seen Mehera in childhood and wanted to marry her. Mehera had been wondering why the woman was being so sweet to her. She found her exceedingly kind and congenial and had not realized until now that she was trying to persuade her to say yes to her nephew. Baba said that he wished to clear up the matter. He pointed out that since Dalit Mai was a widow, it would not be easy for her to arrange Mehera's marriage alone. Dalit Mai said she liked the match. In her heart was the hope that if both daughters were married and settled, she would be free to come and serve Baba. At the time, no one realized that young girls, as well as older matrons, would be allowed to stay with Baba. Shireen Mai agreed. What about it, Murog? The boy loves her. He'll make her happy. Do you have any objection to this? Baba said that he did not. Someone opined, a son-in-law at our own front door. We don't have to go looking for him. After the trouble they had been to with Rustam and Franey's marriage, this seemed fortuitous. The talk went back and forth. Others expressed their opinions. Only Franey was somehow not agreeable to the match. Mehera was only 16 and was amused, as well as somewhat embarrassed, that they were talking about her. Shyly, she put her head in the crook of her arms and quietly giggled to herself. Baba said, all are arguing and discussing this matter, but what has Mehera decided for herself? It is for her to say what is in her mind. She should be asked what is her decision. Shireen Mai did not agree. Why do you say that, Merog? Say what? I only say we should ask Mehera whether she likes the idea. It is her future after all. All turned to look at Mehera. With everyone staring at her, she became even more embarrassed. Franny whispered to her, "Come on, Mehera, answer Baba. Do you like the match? Baba wants to know. He's asking you." Mehera looked up and gathered her courage. In Sikori, she had heard and felt inspired by the story of Saint Mira's renunciation of the world, and she had now seen Baba properly. It gave her the courage to say what had come into her heart, what she knew was her destiny. She turned to face Baba from the side where she was sitting by Franny and said, "I don't want to get married." And then she looked down again. Go ahead, Tina. Read.
Okay. Can Deb read?
Sure, I'd love to. The others looked at her as if she had gone mad. Dalamasi had always been very sweet with Mehera, and she tried to convince her. If not this boy, Mehera, then another? Mehera said, no, never. They could not believe their ears. Not only did she not want to marry that boy, but also she did not want to get married at all. The elders stared at her indignantly. Baba was pleased, but he did not show it. What did she say? He asked. Although he had heard her very clearly, he wanted it repeated for the others. Franny repeated what Mehera had said, and Baba said, "Now, do you hear what she said? She does not want to marry. Don't try to persuade her. Don't bring up this subject again, ever. Don't pester her or badger her about it, and don't scold her either." He repeated firmly, "Don't bring up the topic again." Talatmai was forced to drop the matter. I was then left in peace, said Mehera. Rustam had parked the car on the road near the well and was waiting for them. Baba walked quickly out of the post office and went to speak with him privately. When they got home, Franny wanted to know what Baba's mood had been after the meeting and asked, "What did he say to you?" Rustam reported that Baba had been in a lively and cheerful mood when he came out of the post office, which led them to conclude that Baba was happy about Mehera's decision. The following day, Baba sent word that Shireen Mai, Dalamasi, Dalatmai, and Mehera were not to stay in Ahmednagar any longer. They were ordered to return to Pune, and they left that day on the train with the aunt of the boy who had wished to propose marriage to Mehera. Mehera had not realized that the train would take them past Meherabad, but shortly after they left the Ahmednagar station, the older women remarked that Meherabad had come. Mehera looked out the window to see Baba standing near the railroad line waiting for them. He was wearing a sadra with his hair loose. As they passed, he waved and they all leaned out of the window, waving until the train was far away.
Here's the beautiful picture. Baba. Got Kopar, Maharashtra in October 19th of 23. And there's Big Khorshid, Small Khorshid, and Nadja. And so I'm not sure if Marvin is here. Marvin, can you say something? If you want to read, I'd be happy to have you read. Otherwise, I'll read. This is a chapter titled "New Friends." For the next 6 months, Mara stayed in Pune with her mother at their home in Tadiwala Road. assisting Dowlat Mai in sewing handmade borders onto saris, reading, playing Ludo, similar to Parcheesi, working in the garden, and puttering around the house. Since her initial meeting with Baba Jan when she was 11, Mehera had not visited Baba Jan again. Now, with her mother, they went in the Tonga every evening, and when a talented lady Qawwali singer would entertain for a few hours. Baba Jan looked very beautiful, so confident and regal, Mehera recalled, like a monarch. Her face was very fair. She was so sweet. She always sat facing the men, speaking to them in hushed tones. Only a few women sat near her off to one side. She would look around occasionally to see who had come. One night when we went, I put on a sari, and Baba Jan turned and looked at my mother, then at me. That look, I still can't forget it. So beautifully she looked at me. It was just for 1 second, but with a very beautiful expression in her eyes. I didn't say anything, just smiled. Baba Jan smiled slightly in return. Now I feel bad that I never said anything to Baba Jan, but that I never asked her something. I didn't have that sense. Besides, it was very shy. Men were usually around Baba Jan in the daytime with housework, cooking, and the woman would be too busy to come then. When a few women did come, they sat behind Baba Jan. Sometimes she would remember there were women present and turn and smile sweetly. Dowlat Mai went to Baba Jan at night so that her presence would not be so obvious to the gossip mongers. As it was, people would say, instead of going to the fire temple, these people were sitting with that old Muslim woman in the gutter. Sorry, I need some water. The Zoroastrians continued to talk about Dowlat Mai and Freni Masi behind their backs. The entire community was adamantly against Baba Jan and Meher Baba. Later on, said Mehera, Mother used to go to Baba Jan in the daytime. She didn't mind them talking. Dowlat Mai's mother, Shireen, also did not mind the talk, and occasionally visited Baba Jan, who seemed to enjoy her visits. Baba Jan would reminisce with grandmother Shireen about Persia, working in its fields and orchards, and someone would begin a Persian song, and Baba Jan and grandmother Shireen would answer in refrain back and forth. Others told amusing tales or stories from the life of Zoroaster. Um, I'm not sure if Marvin is here. He doesn't seem to be answering me. So we'll go back to Eugene.
The fruit and vegetable market was near Baba Jan's seat. So whenever Dowlat Mai went shopping, she stopped to visit Baba Jan. Sometimes during the day, Mehera and her mother made quick visits to give Baba Jan fruit, never flowers, which Baba Jan distributed as prasad. Baba Jan did not allow them to take darshan, but she accepted food. Devotees routinely brought tea and buns along with fruit, which Baba Jan distributed. She herself ate regular meals. Baba John didn't like anyone to touch her feet, Mehera recalled. At the most, she would offer her hand to be kissed. If she herself put out her hand, then a kiss was permitted. Otherwise, we always greeted her from afar. Yet with Baba, in the beginning, Baba John would tell him to scratch her back. He would sit for hours and hours scratching her back until the early hours of the morning. Baba once told me that when Baba John would finally tell him to stop scratching, his fingers would be so stiff he wouldn't be able to uncurl them. He would have to massage them to straighten them out. Did you ever kiss her hand? The author asked. I don't remember, but I have touched her, patted her knee. She wore rings, not of real gold. I saw where her two fingers had been worn away from the rings she wouldn't let be removed. The sidebar says, Baba John's two fingers were eaten away by maggots when they became infected, and she would not let the gaudy rings she habitually wore be removed. Once, when Dalit Mai went to Baba John without Mehera, she took her oranges, tangerines, and tiny cucumbers in a basket. Baba John was happy and accepted the basket, but inquired, Why did you bring cucumbers? Dalit Mai answered, It's summertime and people eat them raw. You eat it green, uncooked? Asked Baba John. At our place in Baluchistan, we used to cook them. Baba John told Dalit Mai to take the cucumbers home, cook them, and bring them back. Dalit Mai was not sure how to do it, but with her sister Franny Masi's help, they cooked them like squash. When Dalit Mai brought the dish to Baba John, she ate it. Mother then learned how to cook cucumbers, Mehera said, and prepared it for us sometimes too. Meher Baba's sister Mani also visited Baba John in her childhood. She recalled, Baba John was small to look at, but very beautiful. She had a beautiful pink complexion, curly white hair, piercing eyes, and a high, squeaky voice. Baba John would be seated by her tree inside a brass railing enclosure, which are referred to as her cradle. She would play peekaboo with a chadar, that's a sheet. She never lay down, but was always 3/4 reclining. Baba John was humorous. She was also very powerful. You could feel that authority in her. She was also stubborn. If she wanted something, no amount of persuading could budge her. She was charming and on occasion also abusive. If she was bothered, she would swear if someone called her Mai, meaning mother. One man who looked after her was huge, with a big black beard, but he was like a lamb before her, coaxing and pleading with her to do something. Mehera's aunt, Franny Masi, was also usually present near Baba John.
I'm sorry, I have to take a bathroom break.
Okie doke, we'll wait.
Okay.
So our neighbor's always giving us cucumbers. I should learn how to cook cucumbers. Only so many you can eat that are raw, you know?
Yeah. They probably don't require a lot of cooking, right? I mean, they seem, because they're so soft to begin with.
Yeah, I think they'd probably cook like summer squash.
Yeah, like zucchini. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in places where, manure is used for fertilizer, it's probably a
Mhm.
good idea to cook everything. I think
Yeah.
that's why the Chinese don't like historically or culturally eat salads.
Hmm. Well, um, there's all sorts of insects and birds that also poop on your on your garden. So,
Ah, that's true. Yeah, too. Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
I have a garden. I I miss it though. This time of year you can't garden, of course.
well, in my area of New York, uh, people are encouraged to use, at least we have a magazine called Dirt. I mean, our area is like a famous black dirt area. It's called black dirt because it's like the bottom of a shallow lake that
Wow.
that was drained. Um,
Mm-hmm.
oh, here's Tina back. We'll continue. We'll continue
Okay.
with reading.
Okay. Go on.
Mani remembered Franny Masi affectionately as something of a character who kept all kinds of herbal medicines in a long pocket of her skirt or petticoat. Franny Masi's would guide me in what to do. On Baba John's tree was a crooked nail, and on it hung a poorly framed printed photo of Baba. Baba John spoke in Hindustani. Once, when I was 8 or 9, Baba called me near her. She took my hand. She looked at me. Then she turned and put her forehead on Baba's picture on the tree and began to cry. I felt nervous and scared. While my hand was still in hers, I turned around to look at Franny Masi, who had put her fingers to her lips, telling me not to move, just to stay still. Baba John then raised her head as if nothing had happened. There was a radiance that emanated from Baba John. That radiance, you didn't want to leave it. Once Baba John held out a silver rupee coin to Mani. The others went for it, but Baba John gave it to her. She had also given Mani's brother, Bairam, a bidi, a hand-rolled cigarette. Mani had a vivid dream about Baba John once. She saw Baba John packing up as if to leave Pune. She was tying bundles. Don't leave, Baba John, Mani had cried in her dream. What would Pune be without you? Don't go. Why are you going? Baba John had said, what can I do? I must close my shop. I don't have any more customers. Why not, Baba John? Mani had pleaded, crying from the depth of her heart. The price is too great. They can't pay the price. When Mani woke up, she found that her pillow was wet with tears. This was the only time that had happened to her. She had laughed in her dreams, but never before or since cried. Baba John had so much love for Baba, Mara added. She had been waiting years under the tree for him. She must have seen Baba every day going to college, but she had to let him ride past her for 2 years until the right moment came. About Upasani Maharaj, Mara said, see how brave Baba was, even though Maharaj threw the stone at him. Maharaj was trying to test him. Was he the real one? Anyone else would have run away, but Baba stood there, not moving. He wasn't frightened for his life. Adi Sr. once commented about Upasani Maharaj, comparing him to Babajan. Upasani Maharaj was a bit stern, like a father, whereas Babajan was like Baba's mother. Naturally, the love of the mother is always greater, and Baba loved Babajan the most. But, Adi added, the love of Mehera Baba far surpasses any. It swept you off your feet. Besides visiting Babajan regularly, Daulat Mai often prayed at the fire temple. But since she had broken off all connection with other Zoroastrians in Pune, she went to the small fire temple in the afternoons when no one else was there. This fire temple happened to be near Baba's relatives, who Mehera now met. Baba's cousin Naja, 15, and Baba's sister-in-law, his brother Jamshed's wife, Khorshid, 21, who were likely to be found at the home of Baba's aunt, Daulamasi. Debo, you want to continue?
Sure. I'll read the little sidebar first. Naja's mother had expired. Besides her mother, 2 other children in Naja's family had also died. Their names coincided with the names of Meher Baba's 2 closest disciples, Gustaji and Mehera. When Mehera told her mother that she wanted to go to the fire temple with her, Daulat Mai was pleased by her interest and agreed to take her. Mehera seemed to have become pious, religious, and devout, she thought. When they got to the fire temple, they washed their hands and faces outside, and then went to the inner room where there was the silver container of fire. A priest was reciting prayers. I performed the kusti, Mehera recalled. My sister had taught me one short prayer, so I picked up the prayer book and began praying. I prayed seriously, reading the prayer slowly, but after 10 minutes I was finished. She gave some money to the priest who tended the sacred fire, and he handed her a pinch of ashes. I looked at my mother. She was still going on. I wondered how to pass the time because I knew she would stay here for a long time, at least an hour. So I whispered to her, Mama, I'm going to Naja and Khorshid's place. Pick me up there when you are through. Mehera walked to Daulamasi's and found everyone there. She passed the afternoon chatting. I used to love to go to Daulamasi's and be in Baba's atmosphere. Naja and Khorshid would tell me about Baba. Jamshed would be there. He used to talk about Baba also, their school days, how he had gone to Babajan, what she had told him, stories of Manzilamim, and his dreams of Baba. Jamshed used to have fascinating dreams about Baba, which he would write down. He loved Baba very dearly. I used to love to hear those stories. I loved listening about Baba. Boy, I'd like to hear some of those fascinating dreams that Jamshed had. I've never heard of them being written down.
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah. They would want me to have tea with them. Dalla was so sweet. Though Dalla was hard up for money, she would make fresh, we need Meher here, bujars or patrel savories for us. Sorry, mispronounced those. There were just 2.
Bujias. It's called.
Hey, you're here. Okay. Just in time. Thank you. All right. There are just 2 rooms in the pumpkin house with an attic upstairs. Baba's altar was upstairs. There was a wooden ladder going up, but no handrail. I was afraid to climb it, but the girls would take me upstairs to the attic and show me the small altar on which were kept Baba's and Upasni Maharaj's photos, which they used to worship, light a light, and burn incense sticks. They would tell me to do this and that, and sometimes we would do arti together. They would sing songs and Baba bhajans for me that Baba had composed. Though Dalamasi and Shri Mai were sisters, they did not resemble each other. Dalla was darker and chubbier, a kind-hearted and generous woman. She loved Baba dearly. She would do anything for him. She would narrate how, although she was poor and lived hand to mouth, she would manage to feed Baba and his friends. Baba would ask Dalla to cook for them, afraid to take his friends to his own house, where his mother was liable to be upset and refused to entertain them. Dalla, on the other hand, always would. Do you want me to continue reading, Tina, or someone else?
I don't know if Marvin is available. Oh, what about Meher Karan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can read. Thanks. So we are at the first of this page.
Yeah, the top of the page.
Yeah, okay. When Baba was a child, she insisted that he have brand new clothes, not hand-me-downs from Jamshed. She knew he was special. She was so brave also, not afraid of anyone. She was like the true truth officer of the neighborhood. She has a whip to flog the drunkards who were sent to bother Shirin Mai because of antagonism against Baba. Once a drunk Goanese was fighting outside her house. She brought out her whip. The drunk turned around and gave her a sock on the chest. Daula fell straight back on her rear end. Mehera also remembered Daula's husband, Fardun Masa, as a kind-hearted man who liked to play jokes. When Baba buttons, badges, and lockets were first available, he would tease the girls by showing them some and then hide them in his pockets, saying they could not have them. They had to plead for the badges before he would relent. Every 2 or 3 days, mother would go to the fire temple, and I would always say that I also wanted to go. She would say, "Yes, I know why you pretend to want to go to the fire temple. So you can scurry off to Khorshid Naja's place afterwards. Going to the fire temple is only an excuse. You want to go to Daula's house." And I had to admit it, but she took me anyway. Although Mehra was from a wealthy family, she was deeply drawn to the atmosphere of love at Daula Masi's modest home, just as she was drawn to the austere, simple life at Sakori and later at Meherabad. Daula's home was just around the corner from where Baba's parents resided, but Mehra did not go there then. Baba's mother never came to Daula Masi's, and we sort of had to hide from her, Shirin Mai. I did not see money in those days either. I remember visiting Baba's mother's house once with my mother, but money wasn't there then. I met Baba's grandmother, Shirin Mai's mother, Golandun, at Korshes Naja's place once. We did not talk much. She spoke Persian. I never saw her later because she never came to Meherabad. Shirin Mai did take money in a tonga one day to Daulat Mai's house on Todiwala Road, but Mehra was not at home. Daulat Mai served them tea and cakes and presented money with a doll made of cellulite. The doll came without clothes, so Shirin Mai made a dress for it and kept it in her showcase, which Mani did not mind, as she was not fond of playing with dolls. Naja and Khorshid also visited Mehra's house several times, where they spoke about Maharaj and Baba. Another visitor was Baba's childhood friend, Sailor Mama's wife, Naja. She taught them how to make liniments, which they prepared together at home. Meanwhile, while Mehra and her mother were in Pune, Meher Baba was traveling to Quetta and elsewhere, and afterwards residing at Mehrabad. At times, he came to Pune for 2 or 3 days. Vishnu or Padri would be sent to inform Daulat Mai of Baba's arrival, and she and Mehra went for his darshan, usually at Sadashiv Patel's home or the home of Ramju Abdullah's sister, Amina Jafar.
Okay, thank you. Um, I don't know if Marvin is wanting to read. Can you hear me, Marvin? I guess not. So I'll pick up. There was only a handful of Baba lovers in Pune, and Dalit Mai faced fierce opposition from the Zoroastrian community over her involvement with Babajan, Upasani Maharaj, and most of all Meher Baba, who, unlike the other two masters, was himself a Zoroastrian. But since Sadashiv lived in Kashapeth on the Hindu side of Pune, it was relatively easy to visit Baba without being seen by other Parsis or Iranis, adding more fuel to the fire of gossip. Once, when Daulat Mai and Mehra went to see Baba at Amina's, Baba asked whether she had anything to say to him. Daulat Mai said that she wished to speak to him in private, and when the others left, she sat near Baba and confessed her desire to stay with him in the ashram. She told him that the most important thing in her life was now to serve him as a master, as her master. How can you serve me? Baba asked. I'm not staying in one place, but he promised when I do settle down in Mehrabad permanently and open a woman's ashram, I will call you first. Mehra did not hear their conversation because she was seated on the other side of the room. It was an Ekadashi, a Hindu day of fasting, and she was fasting as she had learned in Sakori. Baba asked her about it not having a Hindu calendar. Mehra explained she had become confused about which day she was supposed to fast. Baba instructed her not to fast on the Ekadashi anymore, but to fast on 2 other days according to the Zoroastrian calendar. On Hormazd and Raj and Bayram Raj, the 1st and 20th day of the month. She could have milk twice a day on those days, nothing else. I never liked milk, Mehra recalled. When the time came to drink it, it was like drinking castor oil, but she continued to fast twice a month until she came to stay with Baba, at which time he told her to stop. Besides visiting Naja and the others at Daula Masi's home, one other lifelong friend of Mehra that Mehra made at this time was a 13-year-old Khurshid K. Irani of Bombay. Khurshid's mother, Suna Masi, was Gulmai's sister, and the family had been in Baba's contact for about a year. Gulmai's daughters, Dali and Paroja, had gone to Bombay to study, and they accompanied their cousin Khurshid to Manzili Meem to see Baba. But if they heard that Baba was not in a good mood that day, as often was the case during this period that Baba was training his early disciples, they would not venture inside. I don't know where this sidebar comes in. but it says later to distinguish between the two Khorshads, Baba's sister-in-law was called Moti Khorshid, Big Khorshid, and Mara's new friend was now called Nali Khorshid, Small Khorshid, since she was 8 years younger. Uh, let's see, where did I leave off? Khorshid, however, never hesitated to boldly enter, and the other two girls followed meekly behind. Khorshid sat by the well inside the compound, and waited for Baba. After a few minutes, he would come and play games with the three girls and ask about their schoolwork. Khorshid became so fond of these visits that she quit school for good when she found out that Sunamasi and Golmai had been to Manzali Mim one time without her. She loved Baba dearly and never wanted to miss the chance of seeing him. In fact, Khorshid was prone to visions and would often see Baba at her home a day before he's actually coming there. She would see him sitting inside as if from afar for just a few moments. Then she would tell her mother, "Tomorrow Baba will come." Someone else want to pick up?
How do you know? Sunamasi would ask. Khorshid would tell her that she had seen him in a vision. Her mother would not believe her, but when Baba invariably did come the next day, Sunamasi began having faith in her daughter's pronouncements. Khorshid's father, Kaikushru Maza, was also spiritually inclined. Before Khorshid was born, her father performed a severe penance known as Chilanashini, where an aspirant draws a circle around himself and vows to stay inside the circle without food or sleep for 40 days and 40 nights. It is a dangerous practice, for the aspirant must withstand the onslaught of terrible apparitions and other mental torments. If he steps outside the circle, it could mean madness or death. If he succeeds, whatever he desires will be given to him. The asterisk says, Meher Baba's father, Shariarji, had performed the same penance when he was told that what he sought, God, would be granted to him in a son. Kaikushru, a jeweler by trade, entered the circle in the hopes of gaining great wealth. Despite being frightened by visions of devils and demons tempting him to step out of the circle, he remained inside for 39 days. On that day, he saw a vision of Lakshmi, goddess of wealth. But instead of showering him with wealth, she held out a baby to him. When Kaikushru protested that he was after riches, the goddess told him that he would gain much more through this baby girl, whom he should name Khorshid. When Khorshid herself was 8, she was playing outside one day when 2 tiny fairies appeared. They led her by the hand to the terrace where Khorshid saw a vision of Lakshmi seated on a golden throne. Flowers were draped over the goddess, and perfume filled the air. Lakshmi asked Khorshid to promise her never to marry. Khorshid did so, but the goddess told her, think it over carefully before promising. The goddess made her promise 3 times. Once Khorshid had firmly agreed not to marry, the goddess held out her hand and allowed Khorshid to wear her crown and sit on her throne. When she did so, Khorshid too began shining like the goddess. Then Lakshmi showed her a vision of men behind bars and said, The men of the world are giants, kept behind bars. Never trust them. I am showing this to warn you. I am showing you this to warn you. Be careful and always remember your promise to me not to marry. It is for your own good. The sidebar says, Adi Sr., Khorshed's first cousin, said that at one time, Khorshed's mother, Sunamasi, wanted him to marry Khorshed. But since he and Khorshed were both staying with Baba, it was not possible. Besides, Baba had made Gulmai promise that Adi would not marry. Khorshed never told her parents about this vision, since she thought they would not accept her vow. But when she came to Ahmednagar for Rustam and Frani's wedding, she heard the discussion in Baba's presence about Mehra's marriage proposal and became worried that Baba might tell her to marry. So one day later on, when she was at Meherabad, she saw Baba and ran after him to ask about it, calling, Merwanji. Baba turned and said to her, I know everything. I will never ask you to marry. Later, after joining Baba as one of the women Mandali, she narrated the full story of her vision as a child, and Baba again repeated that he knew everything. Go ahead, Deborah.
Okay. Khorshid and her mother, Sunamasi, had traveled with Baba recently to Karachi and Quetta, and Baba now invited the family to Pune, where he was staying at Abdullah and Amina Jaffar's house in the camp area. Dalatmai and Mehra were also informed that he had returned and invited to the Jaffars. Khorshid's family arrived on 22 August 1923 and was sent to pay their respects to Babajan. This was the first time they had ever met the perfect master. Khorshid remembered that Babajan took particular interest in Sunamasi. Babajan embraced her tightly and, holding her face in her hands, kissed her and said, "Oh, my daughter, how long have I waited for you?" Khorshid stood watching and then took darshan. The following day, Mehra and her mother came to the Jaffars. Mehra brought along her dog, Peter, and she and Khorshid, who also loved big dogs, petted him. Frani had stayed with Khorshid's family in Bombay before her wedding, and although Khorshid had come to the Ahmednagar for the wedding, she had not had the opportunity to meet Mehra until now. They quickly became best friends. Mehra liked me and I liked her, Khorshid stated. We lovingly talked to each other as if we were old friends. In India, it is common to consider your in-laws' family to be part of your own family. So because Mehra's sister had married Khorshid's cousin, the two girls felt they were related. It was the Muslim festival of Moharram, and later that night they went with their mothers and Baba to a Dr. Modi's dispensary where Abdullah Jaffar had arranged seats for them to watch the Taziyah procession. Mehra had attended this festival in Pune since she was a child, and she entertained Khorshid by describing its special features, such as gestures, dancers, and free sherbet, which Mehra said she never tasted because it might be made with unclean water. When Khorshid returned to Bombay, she and Mehra wrote each other practically daily, and according to Khorshid, Mehra wrote very humorous letters. She remembered one where Mehra had included a cartoon she had cut out. Baba, who was staying in Bombay, had asked to see the letter and had laughed at the cartoon. "Mehra is your friend," he had remarked to Khorshid, "and you love her, don't you?" And it says on the sidebar, Mehra and Dalatmai never wrote to Baba, nor did they ever receive any letters from him. Unlike Mehra, Khurshid was never shy around Baba. She had met him when she was only 11 and had played with him at Manzil Amin, so she felt very close to him. Moreover, she would advise Mehra about him. Later, I used to suggest doing this or that for Baba, said Khurshid. And Mehra used to listen to my advice and follow it. Mehra was very simple, innocent, and gullible. She was not in any way cunning or devious. That's why I liked her so much.
I think we'll stop there. That'll
Oh,
be
Tina, I think there's a sidebar that Debo didn't read.
she
A
did
little
read.
higher about the.
Oh,
Did you
yeah,
read
I
that
did.
thing about the Moharram is the New Year?
I did not. Would you like me to read it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Muharram is the new year according to the Islamic calendar and commemorates the martyrdom of Muhammad's grandson, Hussein. Tazia or Tabot is a replica of Hussein's mausoleum, which is decorated and taken out in processions across the city and finally immersed in the river. Sometimes a specially decorated white horse, representative of Hussein's faithful steed, Duldul, is also included in the procession.
Okay. Well, that takes us up to 97, but there's some pictures. And then 99. Um, yeah. I'm just writing it down.
Thanks, Tina.
Okay.
Thanks,
I'll see
Debo.
you all
Thanks, Mare.
next week.
Thank you. Good to see you all.
Yeah.
Good to see you all. Yep.
I don't know what happened to Marvin,
See you
but
next.
and I don't know what's happened to
He,
Rosalie.
I know.
yeah.
She used to come.
Marvin usually signs in with two devices.
Oh, maybe that's what's going on. I don't know. Well, anyway,
Maybe one can do it with the other. Yeah.
thanks for coming.
What's the?
Yeah. Look forward to
Thanks for
seeing you
having
next week.
us.
We'll try to straighten out that password change, and hopefully I won't have any more problems.
What does the password change?
Oh, yeah, Prakash accidentally changed the password, and it just wreaked havoc on the host.
Oh, if you're a host, yeah, okay. Mhm.
So anyway, I'll see you all next week. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Jai Baba.
Okay, Baba. Thanks, all.